Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Football Exponential Show. And on today's episode, we are joined again by our good friend Kingsley, who seems to be keeping up appearances these days. Well, we are very grateful, and thanks for joining me again today. How you doing? How's your week been?
Has been good. It's always good this time of the year when I can free up my schedule a little bit, and it's always a pleasure to connect with with you and the rest of the team. It's been good. Again, also it's good to be in the session and then be able to connect with our impressive viewers. And I did hear that you guys had quite a good amount of comment come through. We were analyzing the feedback that we've received from the channel, and then we kind of said, okay, you know what, let's go in there and continue to do more. So thanks again for helping us grow the community.
Yeah, exactly. I think this episode was not on the books, but it just felt we had a bit of time in our calendar, and we just felt we needed to just put something on tape for our beloved listeners and just talk about some football. I think it was a very busy midweek for football games. There were a lot of games across European competitions, the Premier League. There were cup games in La Liga, in Spanish football, German football as well, and the cup semi-final in Italian football as well. And it's also a a huge announcement that was dropped on us today. I think that announcement was inspired us to come on camera and discuss about some topics. I think I'll let you give
Into
any
it.
give our listeners a bit of a little slip into what we have in store for them today.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my good friend Frank just mentioned, we do have a lot, planned to discuss and unpack today. Starting from one cup competition to the other. There was a very interesting Serie A derby that I went in through. Well, not Serie A, Italian derby for the Coppa Italia between the both Milan clubs. AC Milan being the host to Inter Milan in the semi final of the Coppa Italia competition. That game ended in a 1-1 draw, of course. And it seemed like the AC Milan players took the advice of Kyle Walker, especially in the first half. They seemed to be moving the ball a bit more fluid. That was a very brilliant goal again that we saw there by Tammy. What do you think
Cammy.
about that game? Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think it was one of those games that was going on at the same time with another big game in the Premier League. But I think I saw all of it. There seems to be a running team with these two teams whenever they play each other this season. And it seems no matter how bad AC Milan are playing, or no matter how bad their form is, Inter Milan just can't beat this AC Milan team. And I feel it must be quite frustrating for them to see their neighbors struggle as they are in their domestic competition, and they struggle in European competition at the same time, but they just can't edge past them in whenever they meet. But was there another frustrating night for Inter Milan? Magic Mike on AC Milan came clutch with a couple good saves.
Yeah.
AC Milan got the first goal against Real Madrid. Good finish by one of my favorite strikers, Scammy Abraham. Uh,
No
and
pun intended.
yeah, no, so take it how you take it. And Inter Milan pulled level with another fantastic finish from ex AC Milan Inter Milan ex AC Milan midfielder Hakan Çalhanoğlu,
Mhm.
who seemed to revel in the fact that he scored against his ex club. So there's no love lost there. But
Yeah.
which sets up the second leg of the semi-final quite nicely in the return leg next. I believe in
I
a
think
couple of weeks.
yeah,
In a
I
couple of
think it's the
weeks.
week after, yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's
So,
the week
but
after.
yeah, but again, I feel Inter Milan look like a team that they have played a lot of games this season, and that and I still have a lot of games coming up for them. But
Yeah.
with this competition, it gives them a bit of hope of to redeem their miserable season. And as you mentioned earlier on, it was quite noticeable how well they played without a specific Portuguese midfielder, yeah, on the bench. But I won't go. I won't
Oh,
talk much about that.
no, I think you need to be a bit more specific because if my memory serves right, there are two Portuguese wingers
The
in
the one
AC
the
Milan's
the
team.
the one the one that some people after his debut when he came off the bench against Roma in the cup and scored a goal. a lot of AC Milan fans were rushing. They were filled with joy that they finally got the guy that reminds them of Kaka, which I found hilarious. I just and with this specific individual, it's a cycle with every club he's been at where he tends to start off brilliant. He probably scores on debut, then he just from there he just starts going sour and sour and sour until you get to the point where his teammates are telling him, "Yo, you're not Messi. Pass the ball."
Actually, sticking to that conversation, I do remember seeing
Allegedly,
what Kyle Walker said there. Allegedly,
yeah,
well,
alleged.
apparently it might not be channeled to him. It seemed like
No,
the
no, no.
conversation was quite specific. It wasn't quite specific. It was like there was no Messi here. We are not Messi. Just pass the ball
No,
and
no.
keep moving.
Yeah, that could be true. But what I heard was you are not Messi, pass the ball. That's what I heard. I'm not saying it's correct, but that's what I heard. But yeah, but moving on to what else
Yeah,
other
but
game.
but but yeah, no, but no, that was really good actually. I did enjoy that watching, that debut as well, not as much as I would have loved to in terms of concentration because there were, a ton of
Yeah,
other
that
games
was
going
one.
on there. So it was one of those where you had multiple to watch and enjoy at the same time. Maybe
Yeah.
something the European UEFA thereabout can work with other leagues to see if the scheduling can favor viewers like us to be able to get a bit more. But that is just a wish list conversation. So moving on from, semi-final in Italy to semi-finals in Spain. The Real Madrid played Real Sociedad in a very entertaining last, say, 20 minutes of the usual time and then even on into the extra time.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah,
goal fiesta.
yeah.
It was a goal fiesta. What do you think about that game? How do you feel about the way Madrid has carried themselves in big games this season and how they've been able to find a way to navigate whatever storm that's come their way and ultimately they're in the final regardless of however anybody think they might be playing or not playing. What was your take on that game?
Again, it was like you said, it was a very exciting game. A lot of goals, a lot of mistakes. But again, I watched Real Madrid and I can't help but feel not impressed with what I'm seeing on the pitch with just the overall structure of the team, how they go about their business on the pitch, trying to defend, control games. It's been poor for majority of the season. But the difference with Real Madrid, they have fantastic attacking players, Jude Bellingham, Vinicius, Kylian Mbappe to call on to help them whenever they get into trouble. And on this day, they were in big trouble for a brief moment of time where, and again, but at the same time, this is what happens when you rotate the squad. You score a fantastic finish from Bobby Moore's favorite son, Hendrick, and you
Not
lead.
Bobby Charlton anymore.
Oh yeah, sorry, Bobby Charlton. But see,
Anything Bobby and Andy goes together.
to him is the same thing. Bobby Charlton, Bobby Moore, that are probably the same person he said. But
No,
but
he
but
watched them. Remember, he did watch them. So
big fan of them, big fan of theirs. Well, well, yeah, but seriously, it's after they got the goal, you can just see the team stop doing the right things. They stop play football basically, and they allowed an average Sociedad team over so far this season to somehow get a couple of goals. Wasn't at his best on one of them. Camavinga left back was just it was an experience watching Camavinga play left back because we've seen him play left back in the past. We know he can play that position quite well. But whenever I watch Camavinga play for Real Madrid, it's always sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. And on this day was it was on the negative side of that equation. But again, then I think they got was it 2-1 or 3-1 before Jude
so
and
it was 3-1, and then Jude,
then
gave
then
an
yeah, yeah
instant
then yeah,
reaction.
yeah then Jude Mr. I call him Mr. Real Madrid now because you see him, he's that guy in that team. His leadership, the mentality is trying to impact on that team is not, you can't question that. Scored a fantastic goal with brilliant play from Vinicius, who I thought had one of his better games in recent times. But again, with Real Madrid, the issues are still the issues, and this is they don't have enough bodies, not even quality bodies at the back. It's basically Rudiger, and right now it seems, in my opinion, I think Rudiger is probably the most important player. Not because he's the best player, but he's the player they cannot do without. Because if you lose the Vinicius, you lose Mbappe, you have other guys that can come in and sum up and find a way to contribute. But if Rudiger is missing for any part this season, be it in the Champions League or the league, I don't think that's the same Real Madrid team that we see out there. So Real Madrid is more of the same. Just they are going from game to game, just trying to win games, trying to stay alive, and just somehow crawl their way to a title or to a cup this season. But again, congratulations to them. They've made it to a cup final, which for a club the size of Real Madrid, they don't tend to appear in this specific cup final quite a lot. I think this is their third appearance in
Third
the
and
last 10 years.
third, yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Something
I
like
think
that.
this is more Barcelona's territory. And speaking of Barcelona, how did you feel about your second leg in the second semi-final against Atletico Madrid?
I think it was quite a controlled performance, if I'm being honest. There was nothing, it wasn't the usual go fiesta that we've all kind of started to get accustomed to when Atletico plays Barcelona or vice versa. I feel like this was a situation where thankfully Barca got the first goal. I felt like it would have been the exact same kind of game if
And,
Atletico
and
got the goal
what
first.
I just want to talk about the goal because that was a really good goal. Again, my guy Yamin Lamar showing how he's talk to me talk to me about Yamal just because
It,
the
it's,
pass
it's
the
just it's just it's just like anything it touches now turns to gold, and this is beyond form. This is like I feel like he's starting to mature even more as a player, understanding and relying on his abilities in the sense that he every time you watch him, he has that tendency to take it up another notch if he has to, if he feels like there's a need to. And I feel like there's some conversation going on between Yamal and Hans Flick and with respect to trying to manage his tempo, the use of his energy, the aggressiveness, the pressing during games. Like Yamal at the start of the season would just be like all through the 90 minutes is going at you all through, right? But now you start to see if there's need be, he would give a side pass to Kunde or will give a pass into the midfield. You just see him trying to in game management has improved very well, but still he has the ability to unlock those decisive moments. Look at the pass to Ferran is such a beauty. Like it's not a pass
weight
that you should attempt. Like the ways the
the weight of the
tightness of the
pass
angle.
is
The accuracy of the pass and literally just allowing the ball to run through the other side by and that was a beautiful finish, by the way.
yeah
No, no,
yeah and just on Yamal quickly, I think he's gradually building up a vast resume of important performances in big games for club and country where he he's getting a little bit. It's going to be quite interesting to see how his performances in the knockout stages of the Champions League are because I feel this is where this is the playground for star players for big guys. This is where Messi,
no,
Ronaldo, and other guys, and all those guys, Kevin De Bruyne, the big guys in European football. This is their playground where they make these ties, tough ties, their own, and they rise to the occasion. So I'm very interested to see how he handles this next. I think this next few weeks.
yeah, no, it's gonna be a packed schedule,
Yeah.
especially for Barcelona, especially for Yamal, because it seemed to be the one position where Hansi Flick has shown the most resistance in terms of rotation or giving the player a rest or pretty much even having sufficient cover. It could be as a result of Yamal being just too good, or there is nothing that's good enough in terms of another player that will go in there
Yeah.
and fill in those boots. But we'll see how that
Yeah.
turns out. But I know it's been a very bad week bad couple of weeks for Atletico Madrid. But I also want to take the moment to shout out to Simeone and shout out to the team. I think it was a great performance from Atletico Madrid.
You
Um,
think so?
yeah, I think so because again, people keep forgetting this is the Barcelona team that averages 3 goals per game.
Yeah.
This is the Barcelona team that will run at you and sniff blood and pretty much take their chances. But those chances were there, obviously, during the game. But they were not clear-cut chances. And Barcelona, for some reasons, were not as decisive as they were. I could remember an instance of play where Rafinha could have either squared the ball to Ferran or Femin. The both of them were both open for those passes. For the pass from Rafinha, we didn't see that happen. Yamal scoffed a couple of chances as well. Like, but regardless, I still see, especially the midfield of Atletico Madrid in this game. They seem to be a bit compact when they have to, when they had to, and but they didn't break away as much as we've seen in the last couple of games. But they kind of also had a controlled performance. Keeping in mind that also there's been a lot of games in the last couple of weeks for these players. So um, if I were Simeone, of course, the season seemed to be wrapping up in terms of what they can achieve
No,
with regards to
their
trophy
season,
and all of that.
their season's, their season is done. And like you said, you were you were pleased with Atletico Madrid. I stand on the other side of that, but I also want to give Barcelona their flowers a bit because going into this time, we know how the kind of atmosphere you're going to expect from this Atletico Madrid side. They're going to make it tough. They're going to make it loud. They're going to be very aggressive. But it wasn't. There was not enough of that in the first half, in my opinion. And but then again, you can only play your football and beat what's in front of you. And my biggest worry for Barcelona, not in the league per se, but in knockout football, the Champions League, is they tend to give away too many opportunities to the opposition in games like this. And especially in the second half, after with a goal advantage, I saw I saw a switch in Barcelona's approach to seeing out the game. Kubasi went off, and Ronald Arroyo came
Mm-hmm,
on as defensive partner, and that's signaled a switch into the approach where they dropped a lot deeper into the line. Defensive line dropped a lot deeper. They
mm-hmm,
decided defending in the box, and that's where a defender like Arroyo shines because I feel he's one of the best defenders in the box. But when you ask him
mm-hmm,
to play with the high line, be playing passes and defending large amount of space, I don't think he shines quite in that position. And I feel this is not the evolution, but this is the gradual momentum where you see coaches thinking in real time, trying to solve problems before they happen. Or you see Solo comes out, okay, this is a guy that's tormented Barca a couple times in the past this season. I throw on this mountain of a defender to defend the box perfectly against him. And at the same time, not just defend the box, but when you have to step up with the high line, he did it quite fantastic a few occasions and cut Solot offside. So that's just a bit. And another player that's really stood out and has been alongside Yamal has been the standard player for Barcelona is Pedri. This is I think I think beside him and Pedri, him and Yamin Lamar are the two best players of Barca this season, in my opinion. I know a lot of people have Rafinha shout, there's Lewandowski, but I think these two guys, if they are not on the pitch for whatever reason, then it's not the same Barcelona side. And with Pedri, when because we all know Barca, or this season's Barca, they always attack, attack, attack. But that second half performance for Barcelona fan, I'll take a lot of joy from that performance in terms of how to approach a game where you have the lead, where you just control the game, just keep the game going. You stop, start, keep passing the ball around, find your teammates. There's a lot of composure, a lot of maturity into that performance that I've not quite seen from Barcelona recently. Because Barcelona, they score a lot of goals, but they
They're
give a
quite
few at the
vulnerable
back
at the
as well.
back. Yeah, that's true.
So I think it was quite an impressive performance. But with Atletico Madrid again, I'm sorry to say this, I think I'm still disappointed with Simeone. I'm still disappointed with this approach to you can only play football when you're a goal down. And coming up against a team as good as Barcelona are, chances are it's quite slim. And with the personnel, the attacking depth of players you have on your roster, I still expect more. It's not just the fact that they have to win or it's a failure, it's a disaster they didn't win, but it's the fact that they always, especially on this day, they went out there with the mentality not to get beaten first. Especially with the game at home, you expect them to, the first 10, 15 minutes should be tough for Barcelona. You're in their faces, you're pressing them hard, you're forcing them to make mistakes. But there was none of that. They just went there into of. I really don't understand the performance, especially because it's not like they went in with a goal advantage. The tie is level from the first leg. for the first half performance is just it's a performance that I've seen several times for against with Atletico Madrid across several competitions, and it's getting to the point where I feel personally this one it's not a hot take, it's just an opinion. I feel this guy's time at this club should be getting to the point where it should be questioned. That because this is a guy he's one of the highest earning coaches around in European football. They spend as much as the two clubs in Spain, Real Madrid and Barcelona. Barcelona, they are no longer the underdog anymore. They are the established part of the established superpowers in Spanish football and European football right now. And the fact that we all know what they do. Okay, if you can't get to the league, but okay, how your performance is in cup situations? I don't think they've not been to a domestic cup final in a long time.
Mhm.
Champions League, where he sort of made his name. I don't think they've not appeared in the semi-final of the Champions. They've not gotten as far as the semi-final in a long time. And the football is not good. There's nobody that this is not a debated matter. The football is objectively not good for the players they have. And it's a situation where the more it seems they are planning for summer rebuild. Sporting director has left, so I'm guessing someone else is coming in soon. And with the amount of, because with guys like Griezmann, who's probably leaving, Aspilicueta, Koke, those guys will probably be moved on. Probably one or two other defenders at the same time. Can it be an opportunity to get a new messaging, a new voice, a new? Because again, this is not to knock on his work, because I think he's going to be a legend at that club. What he's done for just football in general, because he was the opposite force to the likes of Pep Guardiola, other guys, but he's one coach that stood firm in his principles. But I just think at this moment in time, you have to approach games with the mindset that you want to win it, and I just fear they don't have that mindset enough across all competitions. Which again we'll see because it seems to have the trust, the backing of the club. It seems a lot of fans. Of course, I'm not tapped into the heartbeat of the club, but it seems a lot of fans still appreciate his efforts. But when does that change? Is it this season? Because this what looked like a promising season earlier on before Christmas is now getting a bit sour. There's no they're out of all cup competitions. The league is above them. So is it just another
Yeah.
Champions League finish? And is that okay? Is that enough?
No, the reality is this, while everything you said is correct, absolutely, no disagreement there. But this an important factor that people tend to miss out on is the fact that they got knocked out by the most successful club in Champions League history, Real Madrid.
Yeah, exactly.
You
That's
know,
true. But
despite the margin for error or whatnot with the Julian Alvarez penalty, I know we've covered that over and over again. But the fact remains that they got knocked out by the most successful club in Champions League history, and
and
one of
uh,
the favorites of the competition. And then you
that's true.
move on to the Copa del Rey. There's a reason why Barcelona has won it 31 times. They also got knocked out by the most successful club in that competition. Now, a lot of clubs fancy this would not fancy their chances against these two teams. And we could be sitting down here today discussing something else if the tiles were a bit different. If it was Real Madrid, if it were Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid versus Real Sociedad, it could have been a different conversation, and they
Yeah.
probably would be on their way to the final or not. So the reality is this: you can only beat what is in front of you, which is a given. However, it's a tall order, and
Yeah.
it's a tall order
Yeah.
given
Again,
the circumstances of things. That's what I'm saying. As much as it's a disappointing couple of weeks for them, there is a lot that they can look out for and say, you know what, here are the bits and pieces we can improve on. Of course, they could have been more daring, they could have attacked more. And I'm talking about both games. They could have attacked more in the second leg of the Champions League or Champions League round of
but
16, right?
round of 16, yeah.
Yeah. And they could have also attacked way more than they did in the match on Wednesday. But regardless, they're playing two of the biggest. They're playing two of the clubs that you rather would avoid in these competitions. And
Yeah.
here is where they are. And in itself, it's respectable to put up a fight and not even get blown away. They were not blown away by
Okay.
any of these teams. They were not.
Yeah.
And if before the kickoff of the game, right? Before the kickoff of the game, if you're asked from an Atletico point of view, if you're not going to make it to the finals or if you're not going to make it to the next round of the Champions League, how marginally close do you want it to be? It cannot get closer than this. And that is
Yeah,
where I'm
that's
coming from.
yeah, no, that's because again, football is a game of fine margins where
Yes.
sometimes you can play the best and not get the necessary outcome. But at the same time, I always tend to rather than because I know again it's a results based business, but at the same time, I tend to look at the approach to how you go about getting results and talk about these two specific games against Real Madrid and Barcelona. But starting with the knockout game in the Champions League against Real Madrid, where we talked about Real Madrid earlier. This is not a vintage Real Madrid team at their best. It's not. It's honestly, in my opinion, it's nowhere near a vintage Real Madrid team. It's probably.
But this is the Real Madrid. This is the Real
I know.
Madrid DNA that we've seen in the last couple of
Yeah,
seasons. We're
it's
going to be
yeah.
very honest with each other.
That's no. I know that's true,
There's no
but
difference. There's
that's
no
true.
difference.
But
This is not the first season where Real Madrid may not necessarily play the best game and get the results. This is not the first time.
that's yeah, that's true. But on this specific day, Real Madrid had a poor game for 90 minutes or for 120 minutes. For by their standards this season, that was a poor game. And when you go into that time needing to bring the tie level with a goal, you get the goal in the first minute. I feel the approach could have been better in going out there and looking for the second goal against a team that was not as organized, not working hard enough on the pitch on that day, but they didn't quite make it. And at the same time, you put yourself in this position of jeopardy where you go into shootout where we all know what happened with the Alvarez penalty. That's what happens when you play football that way. Again, with the Barcelona league game recently where they go 2 goals up, they start, which is again you see deep, they want to defend the lead, but at the same time you're now relying on the fine margins where Yamal gets the ball, fantastic shot, takes a deflection back to 2-2. You cannot recover because you've surrendered the momentum you've had and you can't come back again. And again, this past few days against Barcelona, you go into the game at home. I expected a bit more action from them, a bit more aggressive intent to attack the game, and it just didn't come. Even when they went to go down, they tried to get back into the game, but they lacked ideas when they had to, especially in the second half. They tried. A few subs came off the bench. Griezmann went off. I think Griezmann has not had particularly
He
good
looked fatigued.
few games. So
For a guy who
yeah,
was not
but
involved in the internationals
yeah,
games, he looks very fatigued.
I know, but you can say like he's starting to look his age like another player that just that we'll talk about soon, Kevin De Bruyne, and they're starting to look their ages now where he can't the intensity of these games every 3 days he can't keep up with it. But again, just I think end of the day I just feel disappointed because there's so much good there. At the same time, there's not enough to make what is good there work consistently. And again, obviously, I feel I expect him to come back next season with a couple big signings. They will spend well again in the summer as they always tend to do these days, and they'll go again. But again, I just feel is it going to be more of the same dull defensive football, no energy, no intensity. Again, we'll see. But and again, I love Diego Simeone, but I just feel at some point is something I've got is you. I think he's one of the longest, if no, probably is the longest serving manager at a particular club in the entirety of Europe or European top flight, which is impressive. But at the same time, it's just not enough. And I think it comes down to overall to Atletico Madrid as a club, the fan, the owners, the board. What are their aspirations as a club? Is it to maintain the status quo as the third best club in Spanish football? You're always in the Champions League year in, year out, and you just flirt with those margins when it comes to knockout competitions. You can get good results, and you can get above your station. But at some point, you have to get above that station. You can't be in. You're no longer a meetable. You're no longer a meetable club. You're no longer an underdog. You are part of the established order now. So it's to be interesting to see how things develop there. But I think that's it.
Yeah, no, so absolutely. But regardless of how you feel or do not feel about how that game went on or what could have happened, something is certain. We are having yet another El Clasico, and it's a final. So it's April 26th, that's the date. It will be happening in Sevilla. I think right now both clubs will have about 26,000 and some change seats for like the
allocated to
seats
there.
split allocated to them. And it's looking like another interesting El Clasico. I wouldn't want us to delve into that this season, this session, right? But it's just
That's
something
a
to yeah,
it's a
it's yeah,
not
it's just something to think about, given that we might be, or we not we might be, we definitely will be um will be treated to two El Clasicos in the space of 2 weeks, because there's another one, I think May 11th or something like that,
and
for
there's
La Liga second
and
leg. And there
there's a
is a
potential
possibility for a bonus, a super bonus on the Champions League final if things go well for both clubs. It's looking like an El Clasico season, and we would be here. I would be here, and hopefully we'll be seeing the Bulgaria flag flying as high as it could be. But moving away from Spain and going into another derby, we had an interesting game in England, London precisely, over the week, and it was London painting blue. Chelsea defeated
well.
Tottenham. What do you think about that game?
Oh yeah, it was an amazing occasion. It's I think this our first game back after the long break in international football, and Chelsea had the opportunity to field I think a couple players who've been injured in recent weeks. Cole Palmer was back starting, Nicholas Jackson was back starting, and instantly the team looked a lot fresher than they had looked in previous weeks. Jackson brought more pace, more energy, more running, more pressing into the attack, which always benefits Chelsea. And he's by that domino effect allows guys like Cole Palmer and Enzo Fernandez to do their stuff in the middle of the pitch, just behind him. And I think both of them had fantastic games. Another player who was fantastic. I said though, there was a brief moment in the early in the first half where he goes down with with a knee injury, and that
Mhm.
was you could see like there was panic on everyone's faces in Stamford Bridge. Even the coach was like, "Oh no!" But he somehow managed to get up, and he put in a monster of a performance yesterday. In my opinion, Caicedo is Chelsea's player of the season so far. Well, without a doubt, Chelsea's player of the season. He's been even in bad
Hmm.
game, yeah, even in bad games, bad form, he's been the most consistent. I don't. He's not missed a Premier League game this season, and long may that continue. And Chelsea's match winner today was on the day was Enzo Fernandez,
Mhm.
who's sort of getting a habit of popping into the right occasions, right positions to score good goals. With
Sure
this one, he
goals, yeah.
finished.
Hmm?
Yeah, with this one, he finished with his head, which was quite nice. But again, I think with Chelsea, it's a lot of positives. With few players back to fitness, and at the same time, you've also lost another couple with Lavia and Fofana, but there's no surprise there. Kopama is back with a good performance and assist again. I think his first goal contribution in his
3 months or something?
last no no well not 3 months his last 10 I think his last 8 competitions in 8 games in all competitions, which is
Mm.
nice. A clean sheet again for at the back, which obviously helps. But there was an interesting moment that really caught that has been dominating the discourse around this game, and that's from a Tottenham perspective, where Tottenham head coach Ange Postecoglou seemingly has he's broken the covenant with his fan base. No, where his where there was the on I think he made a substitution. He took off the Swedish midfielder Bergvall and brings on Pape Matar. And the fans are they always sometimes when they don't like a substitution or your decision, they voice their opinions. They sing in chorus. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. And 4 minutes after that, Pape Matar fouls Caicedo, scores a fantastic goal, but he gets called off for a foul in the build-up. But before that, obviously, Ange doesn't know this at the time. He then cops his ears towards the fans, his own fans in their way, and like seemingly
Hmm.
making a point of like, see, I've been vindicated in my decision, which seemed like a cheap shot to try your fans, especially if that goal then
Got
gets
chopped off.
exactly, and you're in this situation where the damage is it just looks it's naive. It's risky, and I think it's disrespectful. You can't like whenever you go to war with your fans, it never works. It never works, and I
No,
feel this relationship.
I think his bag is already packed. Let's be honest. Like it's gonna
Yeah,
take a
and
lot
yeah,
after the season for him to be there, but at
no,
least. Yeah, yeah. I think it's gonna take a lot
Yeah,
for him to still keep that job this
well,
season, though.
well.
After the season.
In my opinion, it shouldn't take a lot. It should just be a matter of time. Whenever they get knocked out of the Europa League, then next day he should go. But I think the long term damage of this relationship between this head coach Postecoglou, the Tottenham fan base, and the board, it came to a head last season when with the I think towards the end of the season they had that game against Man City, and
Hmm.
their local and their neighbors were in the title race where a lot of Tottenham fans did not care about the points that day. They're like, okay, if we lose today, and that means Arsenal don't get close to Premier League title, let's still take the defeat. And a lot of fans were very they wanted that defeat because it stopped Arsenal's title aspirations. And which I understand because no, which I understand because again, these are fans, they see football
Hmm.
not in they see it in the local rivalries, they see it in very
Yeah, it's
emotional
gonna happen in
point
pub
of view.
conversations, etc.
Exactly, which is fair. But what I was disappointed then was Ange got into the midst of this discussion where I felt he did not understand what was going on and he jumped too quickly with his own perspective. And I feel, which in my opinion, I think, because there's a way you can go about a situation where you understand, okay, I understand what is going on, I understand the magnitude of this game and what it means for Tottenham fans and their hatred towards Arsenal. But for us, every time we step on the pitch, we play to win. That's simple. But you don't have to go and make naive and disrespect the fans again. And
Hmm.
since then, it's been bad. And when you go into this season, the football is been terrible. A lot of injuries. They can't keep clean sheets, and they are, I think, currently on 16 defeats in the Premier League. 16.
Yeah, yeah.
That's an awful lot of defeats. And again, because and with the point of Chelsea, just to go back, I think a lot of question marks around the Chelsea head coach right now is the Maresca. But I think the biggest thing with him compared to the last guy is how he's managed to get the best out of the club's most expensive signings recently. That's um, Moise Caicedo,
Enzo and
Enzo Fernandez, and Marco Kurela as well. These are guys where, at large parts last year, there were a lot of question marks in terms of how they fitted into the team. Are they expensive flops or were they good enough for the league? But right now, these three guys are the guys leading this team. Enzo was the captain of the day. Kokula has another fantastic performance. Caicedo is the same. So that's credit to him. But on the Tottenham side, you have a £60 million striker, Dominic Solanke. He's not firing. Madison on the pitch again, not firing. The two, well, what seem to be on paper are two most experienced or best centre backs, Romero and Van der Ven. I
hmm.
think this is their first start since December. They
Yeah.
didn't look convincing. They didn't look convincing. They could easily have been a goal down in the first 30 seconds. So there are a lot of question marks in terms of players' performances, players' form, and the overall messaging as the head coach of this. Because again, Tottenham are a big club, and I just feel the relationship is not in there on and off the pitch. And it seems Tottenham are just waiting and hoping he wins the Europa League title to somewhat save their season, which I feel he should have been sacked a long time ago. Like I'm talking probably in
November?
August. No, August.
Oh no,
Before
come on,
this
at the start of the
August,
season.
yeah, exactly in August.
No, no, no. Given the way the season
No,
ended last year,
it was terrible last no, it was
it
since
was bad, it
uh,
wasn't
no, it
terrible.
was
It was
bad. And
bad, it wasn't
no, it was bad.
terrible.
No, because last season he came in, I think he had a fantastic start. I think 10 straight wins. He
Yeah.
gets a lot of applaud, and it seems to that he takes all that in. Then you have I think the turning point for him was the Chelsea game where they are down to 9 men in the game, which is okay, which happens. But
Mm-hmm.
his decision to approach that game in a naive nature, where
I mean,
with
kept
9 men
attacking.
on 9 men, he kept attacking, kept the high line, and they were just easy pickings for Chelsea on the day. Which again, it just shows there's a way that you have your principles, you stick to it, but at the same time, and it seems a lot of coaches these days tend to they lack that pragmatic
Willingness to
mindset.
adapt and be
That's exactly
flexible
just
and then
okay,
and
just
just,
adapt and
yeah,
you can have your principles, but you can still adapt to the game state and the demands of the current game you're in right now. And again, back to Chelsea, I know it wasn't the best football towards the end of the second half, but at the same time, I like that the coach when we needed to defend, he took off some attacking players, brought on two more defenders, and the midfielder showed up shop, went to five at the back, four in midfield. We defend it from here on. Then if whatever happens, happens. But we defend. We don't. They didn't try to keep the ball. They didn't try to attack. They just defended the last 20 minutes, which I take a lot. I take a lot of pride in that because that it shows the manager that is thinking about how to approach game states. Because you don't always have to win games by 2-3. Sometimes
Yeah,
a 1-0, a 1-0,
yeah,
well,
just like you saw with Atletico and Barcelona. It's
exactly,
just
exactly. So I think with Chelsea again, it's always fun, it's always amazing when you can beat Tottenham. And with I think any Chelsea manager that fails to beat Tottenham at home is already halfway out of the door. And like
anyways.
it's true, but so I feel it's it's more points on the ball, getting closer to that finishing off the season in a good way, Champions League places, which I still feel for Chelsea is going to be very, very tough because the fixtures list towards from now till the end of the season, it's very, very tough. Well, for now, I'll enjoy this win and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Talking about one top four challenger to the other, Nottingham Forest dispatched Man United, with Alanga going back there and showing United who the boss is. There seems to be a trend when a player leaves United, they seem to flourish, as you can see with
And
Anthony, you
Tottenham,
can see with with Rashford. Well, Tottenham,
yeah, and
kind of,
Tottenham,
but
yeah, and Tottenham
yeah,
because Nuno
because
Espirito is
why I'm a bit skeptical with Tottenham is that most times they don't let you leave. They let you leave at their own terms. So,
yeah,
you don't see a lot of players getting out there while something is still left in them. But for United, sometimes they show you the door prematurely, and then you go in there and you flourish. Rashford is doing it, Anthony is doing it, and most importantly, Elanga is doing it right in their own faces, and that is Nottingham Forest saying we are here for the third or maybe fourth place, and we're
no
really going to take
third.
this opportunity. No, I
They
mean in
look
terms of the top four finish, like they're currently third place right now. There's a possibility that they end up the season staying third. But worst case scenario, if they get to fourth, it's still going to be a successful season for them, as that will
it's
guarantee Champions League football.
I saw Opta put out the predictions going forward, and at this point, Nottingham Forest are 90% guaranteed the Champions League position right now because the Premier League needs one more win in Europe to guarantee the extra fifth spot. So with them sitting quite comfortably in third position, I think
And who are those left in the Premier League in Europe? I know we have Arsenal playing Real Madrid.
there's Arsenal, there's Aston Villa, because
Oh
again
yeah, so
it's not just the
Aston Villa,
Champions League,
yeah, and also
it's
the entire Europe, right? Talking of
yeah,
Europa
European
League
Cup.
as well as
Europe,
the
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
okay,
So
so
if
that's
so,
gonna happen.
yeah. But again, back to not for that was that's again the performance we've seen this performance several times this season. Just a resolute defensive performance, hard fought battles in the midfield, and they made the most of it on the counter attack with the goal Elanga scored. And I was watching the goal, I was like, Garnacho, foul him, foul, and it just
It just kept
I don't understand.
jogging. Literally, it was
Yeah,
just jogging. It was just
like
one player sprinting with his lungs off, and the other one is just literally
yeah,
jogging.
and again, it seems I think I'll go back to this, especially with this kid Ganacho. It always seems for me, it's always the intent to whenever when you go on the pitch, how do you go about your business with it? Do you go about it with intent, or do you go about it with a very lax nature of how you approach it? Because if the situation was reversed, Ganacho on the attack and Elanga covering, uh, Elanga makes the tackle. He stops that goal from happening.
Mhm.
And I just feel with Garnacho and again as the larger on the larger scale, it's United just weak, soft. But again, a lot of people say they played well, they created a lot of few chances, but I feel that's what Nottingham Forest wants. When they go up, they have no business to play football anymore. They give you the ball, you can create the chances. But when you have guys like Garnacho, Zexi, Hoyland, how good are these chances you're creating? You're now back into the territory of this last month's player of the month, Bruno Fernandes, if he can, which is a choice in my opinion. But you're now hoping for him to have one of those days where he pulls a rabbit out of the hat. But on this day, he was anonymous. I know that. Well, he had a poor performance again alongside the team. But with United against it's still the story is still the same. Just try and salvage whatever you can in terms of points in the Premier League. Attack the Europa League because that's a path back to the Champions League. And United need that. They need that Champions League money. They need it because if I fear what happens at United if they don't make any European competition next season, it could be really, 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 really drastic.
Yeah, no.
Not just what they have, but that in terms of improving the squad going forward. But again, no time for a shout out. The two centre backs, Milenkovic and Murillo. I think that those two
No,
are
they
up there.
didn't. Murilo's an absolute fighter this season. He's
It
going
is.
for every
I
ball. He's
think.
putting those challenges. He's putting his body in.
Mm,
He's using his physicality, and also when he has to play intelligent, just tiny little bit of
exactly.
nicking
He
on one
plays.
place. Yeah, he plays. He plays.
He's a very.
There's
I think he's a very interesting defender. That I'm sure a lot of top clubs are looking at, and I have a feeling he won't be at that club next season. But that's a Nottingham Forest, and
So let's move on to the last Premier League game that we would like to touch on with respect to midweek. Arsenal has their star boy back, Saka Busayo, and he did the magic against Fulham, making sure that Arsenal can walk away with all 3 points. And this, I think his return seemed to be coming at the right time
yeah,
because again, the Champions League game is looming in the air. However, they did miss out on Gabriel, which is reportedly going to be out of the season to the end of the
yeah,
season or something
yeah.
around those
It's
lines. So
yeah,
it's a sweet bitter feeling for most Arsenal fans with respect to having Busayo Saka back, getting all 3 points, but losing one of the rocks or the pillars that you have in a team that seemed to be more defensive oriented this season than attacking in
yeah.
terms of the output. What do you make out of that game?
Yeah, it was a I felt it was a routine win for Arsenal after they got the first goal, which from their covering or their makeshift centre forward Moreno.
Mhm.
They stifled Fulham's creativity. They kept them away. And when Starboy Saka made his appearance on the pitch, it was loud as the stadium was on the night.
They
It's
actually wanted him back. They
no,
couldn't wait.
it's quite clear now. I think it's quite clear. Saka is he is the face of the franchise at Arsenal right now. He is the guy at that club. And when you have Hollywood actresses uh being
I don't know what you're
how
talking about.
no yeah no those who know those who don't know when you have Hollywood actresses delighted at your return. That means you're doing something right. But yeah, at the same time, yeah, he comes off the bench, gets a goal to seal his welcome party. But unfortunately for us now, it almost seems like it's a sacrifice, one son for another son, and they lose. They lose. I feel probably that best defender, which is up for debate, Gabriel for the rest of the
Mhm.
season. And with notable, I think they picked up a couple other players picked up some knocks on the day.
Not saying there.
Well, yeah, but I want to zone in on the point that this is alongside Kai Havertz, Saka, and now Gabriel. These are three players that have picked up on hamstring injuries. And for those who don't know, like a torn hamstring injury is a very severe injury because you have to go under the knife, get the surgery done, and it keeps you out for a few months. Most times you see a tear in the hamstring where it's okay, 4 week, 6 week period.
Hmm.
But to have three players in the same season
Yeah. In
pick
the
up
space
that
of
same
in the space
injury,
of 3 months or thereabouts,
yeah,
not even the
yeah,
entire season.
pick up that same injury statistically, I don't think it doesn't happen a lot. And
No,
which coincides with the guys because you look at the guys Saka, all those guys are guys
just Clintons.
that are always on the team sheet for Arsenal, and which goes to show that there's been a squad management problem. I have felt that there's been a squad management problem in terms of how this guy Arteta manages his best players in that team. Because again, it's not just concerned it's the Premier League and it's the Champions League, but there's some games I see Saka starting in the League Cup. I see Gabriel starting in the League Cup as well. It happens the same thing. You should at this point you should know where your priorities lie. And if 5 years in you don't have enough quality in your team to beat the likes of Bolton, Crystal Palace at home in the League Cup, then you're in trouble. And this is what that happens when you lose key players at the wrong time of the season. And with Arsenal. because with Saka back, I really fancy them against Real Madrid because they will see what Real Madrid are doing. And how if they don't necessarily have to play well, they can get goals off set piece. They can get goals from fantastic play from Saka or whoever. But without Gabriel, I think it's a mountain of a task now. But we'll see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Moving away from some of that into, I kind of want to put this controversial mix there. What do you make of Bruno Fernandes's Player of the Month award for March? What do you make of that?
You know what? You know what? I'll put that question to you because it seems you have an opinion on this.
Yeah, I
I,
do
I,
have an
pers-
opinion because I
yeah,
think it's
I,
laughable, to be honest. It's not it's like, first of all, how many Premier League games did we have in March? Probably two, three at best.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
think, I
those
think,
who had some deferred games, right? And
yeah, I think too.
and while I can't really place who would be a noble contender or who that award should go to, but I also cannot justify why it was given to Fernandez. What is the standout? Like, who did United play over this period? They played against Leicester. They played against Leicester. I think they won that game by 2 goals. Uh,
3 goals.
3 goals.
Yeah.
And they play
Okay, so I'm just looking at the short list now. So you have yeah, you know what? I see. So on the short list for the Player of the Month award, you have guys. You have two centre backs here, which
that's a
shows
problem. That's a
that
problem
you
right
have
there.
yeah. Well, no, you know what? No, sorry. Remember, you have three centre backs here. You have Milenkovic of Nottingham Forest, Declan Rice of Arsenal, and Paul Van Eke of Brighton.
Declan Rice of Arsenal. How's that a defender?
That's the centre back.
Okay, I think we have to zip it on this. We have to zip on this and go into much more interesting conversations. Moving away from all of those fiasco of whether or not Declan Rice is the centre back or defensive midfielder or anything else
No,
that
yeah, yeah,
anybody
no, no,
decides
yeah,
that
no,
is.
no, no, no. Is a no. Which then I'll propose this. Do you put Declan Rice as a centre back against Real Madrid and bring in the likes of Jorginho, Partey midfield with Odegaard? I don't think he would do it, but I'd like to see Declan Rice as centre back because I think that's where he can shine the most. But moving on.
Moving on from that, this is another very sweet, bitter kind of thing that I'm about to introduce right now. It is
Not for
KDB.
me.
It's all
This
sweetness for you. I can tell. This is a huge
this
relief. It's a huge sign
this
of
this
relief.
this 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 news made my day. You know those because those videos where
Mhm,
like in different places like where
mhm,
there's a dictator in the country
mhm,
and
mhm,
his regime gets over
mhm, mhm.
gets
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
gets taken
yeah. You
out
get this from,
and
yeah.
you see people in mass on the streets celebrating freedom. They're free. That's how I feel.
Mhm.
I feel free, freedom. I'm free. Because the evil KDB did in this league, the torment, the terror he did, his reign of terror is over. KDB's reign of terror is over, and I'm happy. And I'm, and again, just to say again, I love KDB, the football player. He's a fantastic football player. But at the same time, his reign of terror is over, and I'm happy. I'm over the moon.
This is such an honest conversation to have. And,
No,
I really would see a lot of people like you come out to say similar things whenever it is the Pep decides to leave EPL. That'll be another day
they
of.
they 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 Pep because I think KDB did it. I think the way he did it went about it, he did it in a very nice way, and
Mm,
also in this new age where Fabrizio Romano breaks every news before it
hmm
happens. I'm happy we got KDB to break the news, though
himself.
there's a lot of speculation behind it, but I was happy he broke the news by
Yeah,
himself.
by
But
himself
the
in
day
such a
Pep
respectable way. Yeah.
Yeah, and the day Pep Guardiola puts out that same message, dear Man City fans, I'll cry tears of joy.
Just
The
the way
day
you were
that happens,
crying when Alex Ferguson did his own, right?
exactly. Just when the day Alex Ferguson left this league, top 5 days in my life, top 5 days in my shoe. That day,
Anyway,
because
as a neutral football fan, I feel some kind of way, but I feel first of all, I feel a lot of respect for KDB, the way he conducted
absolutely,
himself
no,
all
absolutely,
through.
absolutely.
When you talk about young footballers looking for role model, looking for people to aspire to be like, you don't think
Yeah,
too further away from KDB. Like, it's a player that I can barely remember any scandal whatsoever associated to his name.
he always did his
On and
talking.
off the pitch, he conducted himself like a true professional. He's very assured of his abilities, and he shows that as many times as possible. And even more commendably, now he realizes that my prime years might be behind me, and I might as well just take some well quoted advice to leave the game before the game leaves me. And
Yeah,
he is
which,
literally doing that. This is because, again, if you think of KDB, you probably want to think of his worst season. You don't go further away from this season. This is it
yeah,
in his whole
this
career.
is it. Yeah,
This is it.
this is it.
This is it.
Well,
When
well,
yeah, you don't
there was
no.
6 months there was 6 months at Chelsea, but yeah,
No, that
this
was a
could do it.
lag. That was Jose Mourinho's appetite to not want to do anything besides playing bunch
Play,
of 11 bodybuilders. That was Jose Mourinho. That wasn't
yeah,
KDB. But for this one, this is him not, be it for or as a result of niggling injury, be it as a result of the entire team morale, going to a snag, whatever the case might be. But he's come to the recognition that, hey, it's that time, and I want to do it the proper way. Less
yeah,
BS, no scandal, respect to the fans, respect to the administration, and probably he might be giving them a heads up to, go and cultivate the next set of generation or the next set of players that can come in here and try to do the right thing. And then also, most importantly, holding on to the fact where he can now dictate the direction of his future. He can go MLS, he can go Saudi, he can go anywhere. He could just literally go to the beach and hope to get a call up like Shazi did. Who knows? But
yeah,
regardless of how you feel about it, KDB has given us amazing years of football. Amazing, amazing years of football.
yeah,
And it poses
yeah,
my next set of questions. When you think of KDB, and you think of all the galaxy of EPL midfielders that has come through time, like time over time, how and where would you rank KDB, given the fact that I think he won the Premier League at least 6 times, if my memory serves right, and
uh,
not just
s-
not just
6 times.
passively, like, yeah, not just passively,
Yeah,
like he actively contributed to all of those six titles, right?
yeah.
And and even there were seasons where he didn't make it up to number one, but he still pushed his team to at least two.
His impact was also, and I feel just to add on, because I agree with everything you said about KDB. I feel he was the best player on one of the best teams in the world for the best part of 10 years, and with 19 trophies to his name, that's a remarkable amount of achievement. So
Yeah,
that's 19
19 or
congratulations to
18.
him.
I think it's 18
N-
in 10 years, or
n-
19. 19?
19
Ooh,
trophies. So, well,
that's
yes,
impressive.
that's it, trophies. Well, back to the question you asked me. I think I can, now that he's leaving, I can
Now the
finally give him
nightmare
his
is over.
flowers.
Now, mind
No,
you, for the record, guys, once upon a time, my good friend here, who again did you compare KDB with? Let me let you humor the rest of our audience. Who was your
who did
toe-to-toe? Don't do this.
who did that?
We're on air.
No. See, remind me. I talk a lot, so remind me.
I'll let it slide. Anyways, I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
Probably.
No, okay. No. So I think with now that it's official, I
Hmm.
can safely put KDB up there with, if not the best, but one of the best. He's on the Mount Rushmore of Premier League midfielders. I think in my books it's KDB, Frank Lampard, Patrick
Hmm.
Vieira,
Hmm.
N'Golo Kante, and Yaya
Hmm.
Toure. Those five are. I don't think we've seen or will ever see their like again in this league.
What happened
Those
to
five
Gerard?
players.
What happened to Paul Scholes?
With scores was scores again. I'll also caveat this with the fact that
What even
that I
happened?
watched.
What even happened to his body, David Silva? Well, like I'm just the
Yeah,
players
and
there that.
I can't have three Man City players in my top five Premier League midfielders of all time. That's ridiculous.
Oh, so that's a
Like, come
you
on now.
thing. That's a
No,
you thing.
no,
But wow.
no,
But if they've
no,
earned it and you're in the spirit of giving out flowers today, why can't you as well just give out the
no,
right flowers?
no. Exactly. See, I'll give David Silva his flowers, but I'm not giving him a bunch of flowers. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't think he should be anywhere near anybody's top five Premier League midfielders.
David Silva?
But again, yeah, fact. And but again, because so okay, I think it's simple. Gerard, I don't to get into this nightclub, the entrance fee is one Premier League title minimum. Gerard, so that takes out Gerard of this equation. And Paul Scholes, I think it was a close one between Paul Scholes and Kante. But I think I went with Kante with with the share with what's his body of work over which seemed to be a short period of time. But his Premier League is title win at Leicester, title win at Chelsea. In back-to-back seasons was I don't think we've seen a midfielder quite that dominant in the Premier League in a long time. In two different teams, one team that's not quite fancy to win the Premier League in Leicester, and one team that had a terrible season the year before he arrived, and they went on to win the league. And we saw the impact not just in this, with Chelsea, but also in for the national team, walk up winning midfielder and the Champions League winner again with Chelsea. So I think his impact was really felt around the Premier League. And again, I don't think we'll see or can see any player close to what Kante was doing or what Yaya Toure, Patrick Vieira was doing, even Lampard in terms of although I think a lot of people might disagree with Lampard, but I think Lampard gets in there alone for just his
Oh no, just
say,
his sheer goal contribution, goals, assists,
I
and
think
leadership. Yeah.
exactly goal contributions, longevity at the top, and how he modified his game when he got a bit older. He didn't decide to leave and go to Saudi like some players are doing, or going to MLS like some players are doing. But he stuck around, impacted his knowledge to the younger Chelsea players coming through. Then he ultimately left. Coincidentally, he left and went to Man City. So that's interesting. But again, shout out to KDB, fantastic player, fantastic professional. It's been a pleasure watching him. I was seeing a lot of KDB comps, like his goals, his assists in the last 10 years. The sheer number, the sheer volume, the creativity, it's just out of this world. So congratulations to him and Man City. But which then poses the question: well, let's just how do you think Man City go about replacing a player like KD? Because of course you can't replace greatness. But then again, there was a time when after Aguero, after because again there was a time after Aguero left the club and Guardiola was on the pitch crying, we cannot replace him, we cannot replace him. Then a few weeks after he signs Erling Haaland. So
Haaland and Alvarez.
ex- exactly. So
Oh.
but I feel this would be a lot harder than that because you don't have because with Erling Haaland, it's quite obvious that okay, that's the guy. He scored a lot of goals. He's done it in Germany. He's done it in the national team. Go get that guy. Expensive, but you can get him. But with Kevin De Bruyne, how do you replace this
Oh.
creative hub of this team? How do you replace his? Because again, just it's not just a good player, but he's a good player that shines in big moments. The bigger the game, the bigger the performance from Kevin De Bruyne. So how do you get that? 'Cause I feel it's a very of course you can replace him in the aggregate where you get different players to do different roles
Hmm. hmm
that amount to the same sum of
hmm
his output in terms of goals and assists. But at the end of the day, I was thinking about it while I was just going about my day, celebrating this news. And I feel the only player that came to mind is one guy in the Bundesliga, one of my favorite players to watch, and I would hate if he goes to Man City. Florian Wirtz.
Yeah,
I
Frank
think,
Verse is a good shout there. Musiala is another one that I would, if there was money floating around. It's
yeah.
not a like for like kind of player, but he can come in and he can do that. And then if you're looking at a player that will bring in the control and dictate the game the way KDB does sometimes, it might be Pedri another shout there.
But
But
but sorry, but again, there's also and not a left field option, but is an option that's quite familiar to the club. And Cole Palmer.
That's another way to go about it as well. But would
Because
Kupama be coming in and be playing in midfield in this Man City team? This Man
no,
City team
and
already lack legs. They already lack. They already lack
but
legs. They already lack. Um.
but they, by feeling in terms of what they lack, yeah, they do lack legs. But I think with a guy like KDB moving on, Gundogan probably will follow. I expect Bernardo Silva to follow as well. You
Mhm,
lack quality. You lack quality in those decisive positions. And when you're looking at in terms of the best around currently, that's you're looking at guys like Florian Wirtz, Musiala, Jamal Musiala. Pedri also falls in that conversation. Jude Bellingham falls in that conversation, and also Kopama does fall into that conversation. And if there were to be any club that could prize them out of Chelsea, it's probably Man City because they
yeah.
have the obviously they have the financial muscle behind that. And when you get to a situation where okay, like well, I believe to price out for Verts from Bayer Leverkusen probably cost you three figures, somewhere about 100+ million pounds.
Mhm,
Then do you then go, okay, you know what? We can go buy Cole Palmer, who's from our academy. He's going to be the face of English football for the next 10 years if he has a good career, and bring him, make him the face of our franchise. Bring him, because again, you've seen what he's done in the last 18 months at Chelsea. He's been fantastic, and you can look at it like okay, he's gone out on Chelsea. Like, because again, it's almost the same situation with where we watch Chelsea, not quite, but we've seen Chelsea did it in the past where you had guys at the club, younger guys, they couldn't make it, they go out,
mhm.
fantastic years, then another club brings them back in. And I feel Chelsea probably regret not bringing the Kevin De Bruyne back when they could have, or even the Mo Salah when they could have. But Man City have the opportunity now where there's the space. Or do you just, like you said, they lack a lot of legs, they lack a lot of physicality. Do you then fix that physicality problem and give the keys to Phil Foden?
Yeah, because it all depends on a couple of things, right? It depends on how Chelsea ends the season this year. If Chelsea is not playing European football, maybe it makes it easier to tempt Kopama away, right? And then also that would affect because again, if my memory serves me right, I know that Kopama recently renewed his contract and then have an
Yeah,
extension to some
I think
gazillion amount of years. So
I think
it's,
I think to the I think he has like 50 years left on his contract, so it's not going to be cheap.
it's not going to be cheap, and it's not going to be a conversation that will come around based off trying to be smart. It's just pretty much you're gonna have a proper negotiation, try to convince the holding club to sell, and then probably try to put some sweeteners left, right, and center across that deal. So it's gonna be a very tricky negotiation. And I think in terms of which of them will be easier to navigate, unfortunately, you may not like it, but I think Wirtz is the easiest of the lot to move over to Man City
Yeah,
based on
yeah,
today. Yeah. So
yeah.
I know that he might have some interest to stay in Bayern Munich so that he continues to keep the relevance and try to be the face of the German football. But if
I
Pep
think
makes him a target, if Pep makes him a priority, and in terms of like for like, in terms of ability to
I,
shoot the ball, ability to be creative,
I,
ability to assist, ability to track back, because that guy does a
yeah,
lot of
it does a
interception as
lot.
well.
Exactly. Yeah, a
He
lot of
does a
do. It
lot of
wins a lot of those.
interception. He does,
Wins a lot
you
of
know,
those on the pitch.
yes, he covers ground as well. So those are things that a lot of people kind of undermine when they think of KDB, but he does that as well. He does that equally good as well. So I think that would be the easiest route, even though it's still going to be very complicated. But then again, if they want to go on and maybe bet on this Argentine guy that they I forget his name, Cal Calva something. Is it pretty young?
Cavacheri.
Yeah, I think so.
It's Echeverry. Echeverry. Yeah.
Echeverry, yeah, Echeverry. So
Yeah. Yeah.
y-
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
know.
something.
So
Yeah, so it's something that if you want to bet on the guy and exercise a bit of patience and give him a year or two to get his footing and all of that, that might be another direction to take. But yeah, I mean, in the meantime, Foden can hold the fort and hopefully progress into the player that he has the potential to become. But again, it just depends. Is Man City gonna look at next season and say, you know what, let's just do a whole, let's get back to the board and redraft, yeah, and then see the likes of
but
um Godogan, see the likes of Silva, to the
So
likes of
so
Stones. It could either be a rebuild,
a
intense
rebuild,
rebuild,
yeah,
or you want to have a phased rebuild. So but
yeah.
it's and also there's going to be question mark as well as to whether or not Pep might want to continue in that role. We don't know that, right? So I mean, he's come out to say he wants to, but we don't know. Like typically with Pep, he would wait until the end of the season and see how how recharged and how optimistic he
Um,
is for that.
but,
So
no, but I almost feel like I feel at the same time it's almost feels like he's already forced to be there. Of course, he controls his destiny, but I feel he's already he's signed the contract and all this has happened, and I think for the first time in his career, he's going to be in charge of a rebuild at the club where you have to phase out big
no, I don't think it's
personalities,
the first
big.
time of his career. No, no, no. He did
Well,
that when he went into Barcelona. He had to let go of the Ronaldinho's, the Deco. That was a big rebuild.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
No, 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 no.
so
Yeah, I know, but letting go of the likes of Deco and Ronaldinho and giving the keys to Lionel Messi and Eto and Henry
yeah,
is quite different
but
from.
with no, but they were
No,
uncertain
no,
at the time. Especially
I
Lionel
know,
Messi. You could
no,
see a
I
gem
know.
there, but you didn't know what it would become.
Yeah, I know, but at that time that was a different landscape because that was his
Mm-hmm.
first,
Mm-hmm.
top flight job. But now we all know Guardiola. We all know what he's become. And I almost feel like he's one of the greatest managers of all time, and all that talk. But at the same time, I also feel before the season has even ended, I'm looking forward to next season. I feel he's probably the manager that has the most pressure on him going into next season because
Absolutely.
if it can't engineer a like fix the problems in Man City this season on and off the pitch, wherever they are in terms of personal fitness or whatever. Because we all expect. I don't think it's gone 2 years without a domestic title.
Yeah, no, I don't think he has done
So
that. I don't see that. I don't even see that happening because all the other Premier League teams need to step up. Even
yeah,
Liverpool
exactly.
running away with the league right now. If they're
This
going with the same
now
squad next season, they're not probably gonna make it in. They're not gonna make it that far.
exactly.
Arsenal cannot win the league with the squad that they have right now if they don't go out there and do serious business. The same thing can be said
Arsenal,
about Chelsea,
Chelsea,
United,
yeah,
Tottenham, and there you go. So it's still
but
like it's
but
still
that's
like it's
even
still anybody's game.
yeah, but that's also that then puts more pressure on the guy that is the most experienced, the elder statesman in the game in the league. That has won it all. He has the financial muscle behind him. And if he cannot mount a successful rebuild or restructuring per se, and it's going to how I don't know how he navigates that because even just the psyche of it, how do you mentally get past that or adapt into this new reality where you've only seen yourself as one, sometimes number two, but it's always been number one. And if you can go, if you then go two straight years without
Because there's
just
also a
being number
possibility that
two,
they don't even make it in the top four this year. There's a possibility. People tend
there's
seem
oh
to brush that over, but there's a
it's
high tendency that he wouldn't. They probably wouldn't at the rate they're going.
especially with Haaland's Haaland's injury puts them in a very precarious state. But again, we'll see how things go. And I'm looking forward to this summer. It's going to be a very exciting summer
I
for a lot of
see
clubs.
I see a lot of movement going on. Speaking of summer, speaking of movement, and speaking of transfers, we're going to give a bonus discussion out there, especially since Frank is in the mood of giving out flowers. Maybe
Oh,
we see what he does for certain clubs. So I'm going to go on and call the list of about maybe six strikers
yeah,
who so far have had good seasons, depending on how you look at it. And then I would let you discuss in a little bit of depth where you think this striker would be better suited and where you think there's a potential transfer for them, right?
okay,
So again, just for recap, I'll go on and I'll say a list of six strikers. At the mention of the striker, you tell me what club you think that they can end up in for whatever reason, you justify it, and we'll see if that makes
okay,
sense. And please, for followers and our viewers, please go on, feel free to debunk, put your opinion. We want to know if this actually makes sense. And this is a suggestion um, from our viewers like yourself who have told us, hey, you know what, how about you give us some picks, some random freebies at the end of each session, and let's see if it's something that you enjoy doing or something that we should keep up in the show. So we go with the first guy in our striker free kick. Um, Victor Osimhen currently plays his football in Galatasaray, Turkey. where do you think he could end next season if the transfer market is good on his side?
Mm. Okay, I think there's been a complete 180 in terms of people's opinions about this striker because I quite remember quite clearly this time last season there were a lot of question marks about his performances. Is he really that guy? Is he really the guy that's is he really amongst the best strikers in European football? And I feel somewhat since the fact that he's gone to Galatasaray, he's scoring a lot of goals, though at a lower level come down Premier League and
Mhm,
wherever. But he's been putting in the work on the pitch. You see the passion he plays with, the intensity he plays with. But also I feel at the same time, a lot of clubs that a few months ago really didn't quite look at him. I think that they're revising that decision now because even the fan base where this like Arsenal they say okay it's quite clear can have it's not enough. Like Chelsea, Jackson, though he does a lot of good things, but he's still not enough to get you to that level, and that level has been
mhm,
challenging for titles. Liverpool, a lot of clubs are even us, even clubs like United, and I feel Osimhen, in terms of the fit for him, the I think the obvious fit is Chelsea. This is a team that needs a number nine that have had issues with that number nine position for the best part of it's slowly going on 10 years now because I think the last convincing striker I had at the club was probably Diego Costa. And and with speaking of Diego Costa, he remember how he played, the animalistic nature of how he went about his game. He was a bully on the pitch, an antagonistic approach to how he handled defenders. And I think Osimhen falls into that. Not quite as nasty as Costa is, but he has that raw power,
mhm.
that intensity. But also, he's a very, very fierce striker of the ball. I think that's one thing I've come to like about Osimhen. He plays every 90 minutes like it's the last. And whenever he gets chances, he hits it like it's the last ball he's going to ever hit as a football player. And I feel it seems like the obvious fit into this Chelsea team right now, and they figure it. And the added intangibles is going to bring on and off the pitch could benefit this young Chelsea team going forward. So personally, I think Osimhen fits slots in right at Chelsea.
No, yeah, I think I agree with you. And also, if you look at the romance between Chelsea and African strikers, dating back Didier Drogba,
Yeah,
Kalu, and even for those who have decided to represent other countries, Anelka, and etc., you would see that there seems to be this synergy going on. Yeah, I do
yeah.
agree. I do see a possibility
And,
of that being a good fit.
and
If
when you have and when you have his fellow countryman John Obi Mikel, ex Chelsea legend, as sort of the middleman in this negotiations, I think that could help make things go smoothly.
Yes, so speaking of Osimhen and John Obi becoming the middleman, we'll go into a club that would absolutely not want any middleman into the Premier League. Is Isaac, the Swedish striker? Where would you place him? Because obviously Newcastle wouldn't want any middleman.
Yeah, so I thought long and hard about this, and I feel with Alexander Isak, he's a striker that is finally coming into his true form. He's had probably I think his best season as a Premier League striker. That's put him, in my opinion, the best striker in the country right now, and also by extension, one of the best around in Europe. But I feel with him, especially what Newcastle did in the last few weeks, that fantastic performance in the Carabao Cup final, bringing the first title back to St James Park in almost 70 years. I I I want and I expect him to stay at Newcastle for one more season. And especially if Newcastle are in Champions League or Europa League positions, if they can get that extra football and he can get to show his talents in on the continent again going to next season. Because I feel he feels right at home at Newcastle. But also I feel on this list we have, he is the striker that's going to cost you the most amount of money. And I don't think a lot of clubs have that 120 million pounds lying around that they can really invest. And
Yeah,
I
but
feel
most
for
times, go on, sorry, I apologize.
and and I feel for him, it will be interesting to see if he can plan or in a way sort of manifests his next club. And that, in my opinion, I think the right fit should be Barcelona or could be Barcelona because the current number nine on Barcelona's books right now, Lewandowski is not getting older. Though he's had a fantastic season in terms of the games played, his goal contributions, but he at the same time it shows like a little, it's shown a little bit of slowing down over the course of the season. And again, you also have to plan for the future. Well, that's what most clubs do. I feel if he stays one more year at Newcastle, and Lewandowski then parts ways with Barcelona probably next season, that's a seamless transition for him and Barcelona, because I feel clubs like Barcelona tend to always get their pick of the best players around, and I think Isaac fits into Barcelona's not just the club, but also the style of play that Barcelona always tend to abide by.
Yeah, and people tend to also forget that Isaac had a good career with Real Sociedad. He has the Spanish experience as well. And he's a player
Exactly.
that's,
That's
yeah, yeah, he has the
that's
Spanish
very
league
true.
experience as well. And he also is a player that's a bit vast than most people give him credit for. He navigated his way from Borussia Dortmund, Real Sociedad, now Newcastle. And this is a player that's played in three of the top five leagues. So who knows? Like if that transfer does go through to Barcelona anytime this season, next season, the one after, it's always going to be a delight to have Isaac in Barcelona. But moving on to another striker that has been rumored to be linked with any and all of these clubs that you've mentioned so far, but we don't know where he's headed. Gregoris, what do you think?
So Gokras, I believe Gokras is the oldest striker on this list, and I say that because a lot of clubs these days they look at that number, they look at your age, and
Look at
because in terms of
age.
the because in terms of the contract they can offer you and how many good years you can offer the club. But I feel there's one club right now that has urgent need for a striker, not just a very good striker because they've invested a lot in that position, and that is Manchester United.
Mm.
And the relationship he's had with the current coach at United now, Ruben Amorim, who's the guy who brought him over to Portugal, and his uptick in performances rose on that Amorim. He knows the system, or he seemingly knows the system Amorim wants to play. He knows how to go about being the number nine. He knows how to be a power forward for Amorim in Amorim system. So I think that's the right fit for him there because you already have those relationships on the pitch. And I think United, even though they might seemingly be going down a younger type of squad building in terms of players they get, but I think a player like Gyökeres, but at the same time, you always want you try to help the manager because he's struggled a lot. I think Gyökeres just solves one of his biggest issues on that club. But then the question then becomes, can he scale his performances in the Portuguese league into the prime time Premier League? But I think the monies that we will demanded are not as high as they were last season. So I think probably the region of 50, 60.
Mhm.
I think if United can get a sale or manufacture a sale of one of Garnacho or Kobe Mino, they can help facilitate this deal.
Oh yeah, if they free up their wages with Casemiro and the rest
Casemiro.
of them, it's
Yeah.
possible. Yeah, and also even regardless of all of those, like coughing out 60 million euros for for Man United for a striker in a position where they desperately need a change. I don't think it's would be the most shocking thing that we would see. Regardless, I still feel like that partnership with the coach is going to help, and I think that that transfer makes sense. Moving on to Sesko, what do you think, and where do you think would be a good fit for Sesko?
Arsenal. I think Arsenal. Because no, because I think Arsenal stylistically he falls into that what he can replicate a lot of what Kai Havertz does for the team in terms of his movement, pressing, hold up play, and all that. But also at the same time, I believe Arsenal have already done a bit of groundwork into this deal, starting way back as last summer, where if you believe reports, he was close to making the move until he changed his mind. He decided to stay in Germany, and he's had a numbers wise, he's had a good personal season in a bad year at RB Leipzig. But I think Sesko fits into Arsenal because he fits into that young, fits into the wage bill demands, and he helps service the need for another body, an able body, mobile, athletic, strong forward in that attack.
And to be honest, anybody will be an upgrade to whatever Arsenal has right now in their number nine
Oh yeah,
position.
yeah, yeah. Like I have it.
But yeah, no, that'll be an interesting transfer. And moving on to the guy from North America playing his football currently in Lille. Quite a decent season he's had, but also very interesting that he's even on the free market. Jonathan Davis,
Yeah,
where do you think he should go?
yeah. I think this is probably the more interesting player on this list because he's a player that has put up great numbers. Well, he's put up good numbers consistently in the
Last two
French
seasons, yeah.
league, and also in the Champions League this season again games against Real Madrid and I think Borussia Dortmund. But for some reason, it doesn't quite fall on. He goes under the radar for most clubs because a lot of clubs have spent big money on strikers, but he doesn't seem to come into this conversation at all. And with the opportunity of him moving on the free transfer this summer, it then opens a vast and it opens an array of options for him. In terms of what the Premier League clubs can offer, they can obviously offer more money financially. The financial packages you get probably a better financial package in the Premier League. But at the same time, I see this guy as a guy that he fits into Italian football more. I think
Mm.
if one of the Milan clubs can get him, AC Milan, Inter Milan can get him, he could
Inter
do some.
Milan has got Martinez, they've got Thuram.
Yeah, they've got to run, but they like a good deal. They're not they're always happy to go for the free transfer.
Mm.
Turam himself was just sort of signings. But it's quite Simeone Inzaghi is a coach that rotates heavily his attack or even the team as well. But he rotates his attack quite frequently, so there'll be a lot of minutes going around, especially with more games to play. You need a lot of quality in those positions. I think Inter Milan suits him the most because you play alongside another striker. That's Lautaro Martinez or Thuram, and I feel that can enhance the striker's overall gameplay and goal scoring abilities. So I think with Jonathan David, Inter Milan is probably the bet.
Yeah,
But
this
also,
one.
but
Go
I
on.
also feel a lot of Premier League clubs will be tempted just because it's a free transfer. You can get a good deal there, and see if you can solve. For people clubs like Arsenal, Chelsea, you can again it's a free transfer. You could get something there because not a lot of clubs can that's have a lot of cash to burn. So I think it's going to be an interesting one to see, though.
Yeah, no, I probably would think Tottenham might be a good fit for him, especially since Solanka has not fired
Yeah,
all our guns. And then they could even be with one thing that Jonathan gives you is that it allows you to play two strikers at once, or even play as a sole striker if you need him to. And I've seen him in
yeah.
the national team as well for Canada. He's played on the flank,
That's yeah,
right?
even
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
so
because I'm always baffled because it's one of those guys that you have an eye out for. But every year he's always performing. Even in the
mhm,
last year's Copa America, he had a decent run out with Canada
yes,
there.
yes.
But is there something we don't know? Is there some underlying
No, it's
issue?
just I
It's
just
really
feel like again, this is
it,
where,
it's really
with no
it's really
with no
weird.
disrespect. Yeah, no, with no disrespect, but this is where coming from a not so reputable footballing country, in
That's
Canada,
true.
this is where it can also have because if Jonathan was playing for any of the European countries or even South American countries, he probably get more balls than he's getting right now. And his numbers are
That's true.
good and his numbers are consistent and he's not an injury prone player. He offers a lot of things that modern day forwards don't give you these days. He's physical, he's aggressive, he's technical, he's tactical, he gives that flexibility. But another shout for Jonathan would be a move to Juventus. Um, I think it's another club that
Yeah,
might that that,
yeah,
that might
yeah.
use a striker of his kind of qualities as well. But I
Yeah,
mean,
I thought
yeah.
about I thought
But
about you. I
moving on
thought
to the
about you
last guy, which will be
a
the wrap up
bit, but
for this
I fear with Juventus they have
conversation,
this.
would
They
be
are committed
a
to
forward that is quite
Vlahovic, so
interesting.
they have to make
When I
that
was
work.
thinking of, yeah, this will be a forward that is quite interesting how we made it to this. This was a player that I enjoy watching whenever I can. Liam Delap, what do you think? He's currently playing his football in Premier League. He's, of course, personally is having an okay season, but at the club level, they're struggling
My good
with
friend,
Ipswich Town.
my good friend, you've disappeared on me. I can't see you right now.
Oh, might be some signals. Do you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, but yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, but back to the lap. So I think this is the last one before we go, so it's just it's okay.
Yeah.
With the lap, I think the obvious fit for the lap financially, even with the financial package and what the club needs, it's Liverpool.
A
I
strike
think
striker
Liverpool,
or
yeah,
squad player?
no, I think well, because I believe Liverpool will make big moves this summer, especially with the outgoing players. So I expect two of the attacking players to not be at the club next season. Either Darwin Núñez or Diego Jota or what's it called, Luis Diaz. And with a
Or
guy
Mo
like Liam
Salah?
Delap, yeah, or even Musala, but with a guy like Delap who's shown good good form in a struggling team in the relegation places. He's shown he can strike the ball really well. He can make his own chances. He can run the channel. He can hold up the play. Again, it's English, which a lot of English clubs tend to like. I think the transfer fee will not be it's quite fair for Premier League clubs. It's somewhere between 40 to 50, and his wages won't be astronomical. So which is always again a plus for Liverpool because they always tend to keep their wages on that certain structure. But I think with Delap, because even if it's to become a backup striker or something else, it's a good option to have in that team.
No, absolutely, I agree. I think Liverpool is the direction for him to go. And I think somehow part of me feel like the lab gives that bite for a Simeone striker, especially given the fact that Griezmann might be
Yeah,
leaving. Or Griezmann will most likely leave Atletico Madrid. You can have Julian Alvarez play where Griezmann play right now, and the Delap who is ever ready to make the run in behind strike defenders and all that. But that being said, I feel like yeah, no, I do agree with majority of your picks for these teams. And how the strikers can go in and make an immediate impact for their clubs, given the various conditions and variables around the transfer market. But again, this is just a wish list. Nothing
no, this is
solid. N- no concrete research to do. There's no leads on whether or not these players can make those moves at all. No, it's just all
it's just
personal
a bit of fun.
review and
Yeah,
speculations. But if you do
but
enjoy having this mix into our conversations, we would like to know. Please put that in the comment section. Let us know if you enjoy having this extra bonus of conversations going on. Please let us know. And again, to amazing viewer and a member of the community now, we like to see him that way. We'll give this suggestion again. Big shout out to you there. We'll let you know how this turns out. We promise to get back to you and let you know whether or not this is something that other viewers enjoy as well. But just before we wrap it up and move on, what do you think, Frank? With respect to one last conversation,
yeah.
again, who are your predictions for? I mean, who are your hate watch for this week for this weekend, and what do you think would put a little bit of bubble in people's boss?
Okay, so my hit watch for this week. I think I've got Saturday kickoff. Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest. I think I'm looking forward to that game because these are two teams in the same they're fighting for European places alongside Chelsea. So I expect one of them to fall there. And I think the biggest one is going to be the Manchester Derby, which is, as we know now, could be Kevin De Bruyne's last appearance in this fixture. The fixture is he's dominated for best part of 10 years. So
Mm.
it'll be interesting to see how he leaves his mark. But again, I feel United can sneak an ugly win against Man
Mm.
City on the day.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Well, we'll see if that materializes. I actually expect Man City to go on and blow the dust over Man United. I expect Nottingham Forest to win that game, at most a draw with Aston Villa, which either ways would be
yeah.
an interesting watch. But until then, guys, let us know, leave your comment, leave your please smash the like.
Again, love to the community. Thanks for the support. Like, share, subscribe. And if you have any questions, any comments, kindly leave it in the comment section below. Always, always a pleasure having you. Thank you. Bye.